everyone, welcome to the MudRoom, our weekly free Uncommon Sense parenting class. How are you today? Tomorrow is October, which is one of my favorite months of the year. You know, it's cool, but it's not cold yet. We here in Canada have Thanksgiving, so we get a nice long weekend with our families. Call me basic if you like, but I'm all about the pumpkin spice. Pumpkin pie, pumpkin spice chai lattes, pumpkin muffins. I'm here for it. I love it all. I love taking my kids on hay rides. I love playing in the leaves with my kids. I love Halloween. And last year, Halloween kind of sucked with COVID, so I'm really hoping that it's better this year. Anyways, today I want to talk about something that comes up a lot in the parenting posse and parentability during August and September, because we're often dealing with new daycare and preschool and kindergarten classrooms with new systems and new teachers. And that topic is behavior charts. This is not the first time that we have talked about this, but I've waited until now to bring it up again because for some reason, and if you're a teacher, maybe you can tell me why this is, but for some reason, teachers seem to wait till children are settled in to start using behavior charts. I personally have all kinds of theories on why this is, but usually it's around now, about a month or two into school, that these start to get introduced. These come in so many forms. A really popular one seems to be the stoplight system, where you've got like green, yellow, red. Green is behaving well, yellow is ramping up, and red is misbehaving. But there's also sticker charts, token economies, any kind of extrinsic motivation, really. When I was in school, we called them BS because I was in French immersion. This includes when people pervert my love of visuals and start handing out rewards or punishments for completing or not completing a visual schedule. Another one that keeps rearing its ugly head is misuse of the zones of regulation system, which is supposed to be used to teach children how to recognize their arousal levels, but because it has that kind of stoplight color coding to it, it often gets turned into a stoplight chart. I hate these things. It's one of the reasons that I could not handle working in schools and that I was so anxious about sending my oldest to school. And when I say this, people often give me these looks of bewilderment and horror, like, how could you hate behavior charts? As one of my teacher friends, who I have since reformed, said to me a while ago, behavior charts are one of the only control mechanisms we have left. And there it is, folks. Control. Listen, I get it. I've been there. I hate it. It's why I never considered opening a preschool or daycare of my own. Managing 20 to 30 children with 1 to 2 adults on duty is hard frickin' work. You've got 20 to 30 different families that do things 20 to 30 different ways. You're obviously not allowed to use corporal punishment because it's wrong, although apparently not illegal in much of the US. The American Pediatric Association has made a very clear statement that removing recess for disciplinary reasons is unacceptable, again, for what I would hope to be obvious reasons. So most teachers assume that that leaves them with behavior charts. Because, and this may shock you, teachers generally don't have very much instruction on behavior management. They only have a couple of classes during their teaching degree in classroom management, and most of it focuses on engaging children in lessons, not behavior management. There are lots of teachers, both in the parenting posse and in parentability, and repeatedly I hear about how nobody taught them how to actually effectively teach children how to behave. I'm still friends with my own kindergarten teacher, believe it or not, and we talk about behavior management often. My sister-in-law and one of my best friends from childhood are both kindergarten teachers. So it's a frequent topic of conversation in my world, and I understand, from a teacher's perspective, the challenges. I really have taken the time to dig into that. Not to mention that I spend a lot of my early intervention career in classrooms. I went wherever the child who needed intervention would typically go. So I was in preschool and kindergarten with them for a really long time. So here are 4 reasons why behavior charts just suck and we should stop using them, okay? The first is that they teach extrinsic motivation. Just like timeouts, behavior charts teach you to only do something because someone else has told you to do it or not to do it. They're blackmail. Keep your hands to yourself and I'll give you a sticker. That wears thin really quickly Because chances are you have a reason for not being able to keep your hands to yourself. You have lagging skills like impulse control deficit or flexible thinking deficit. You've got a sensory need that isn't being met, and you're either hyper or hypo aroused and you don't know how to come back to calm and regulate. Kids do well if they can, and if they aren't, it's because they can't. And no amount of stickers or rewards or removal of incentives is going to teach them those skills that they don't have. Misbehavior and stress behavior are not character flaws, and trying harder is not a durable solution. You can't try yourself into regulation. In fact, it's the opposite. Generally, the more you try and force regulation, the more dysregulated you get. That's why parents are always coming to me saying, I'm trying to teach them how to regulate, but I have to force them into it. You can't force someone to regulate. You can only create the conditions under which they can regulate. And that's not nearly as difficult as it sounds if you know what you're looking for. The problem is teachers haven't been told what to look for, and neither have parents. If I had my way, a huge aspect of transitioning back into a school year would be consulting with parents on what helps their child regulate, how frequently they need to regulate, what the indicators are that they need to regulate, what strategies worked really well for them last year. But that's nearly impossible for teachers to do when parents don't know how to answer the question. That puts teachers in a position of having to do all the discovery work. They have a class to teach. They don't have time for that. So that's something I work with heavily with my clients on. The second issue with these behavior charts is that they don't teach a child what to do. Children who are constantly on red, they never get a sticker, or never earn tokens, they begin to think that there's something inherently wrong with them. Because no matter how hard they try, they still don't have the skills to do what you've asked them to do. So they try every day, really hard, and they never get ahead. They always end up falling short. And that has a powerful psychological impact on a child. Telling someone how much they suck at something doesn't make them want to try harder. It makes them throw up their hands in frustration and give up. These systems basically put a marquee over a child's head that says failure. So they give up. I'm never going to earn any tokens, so I'm going to stop trying. If I'm always going to be on red within the first 10 minutes of every day, fine, whatever, fuck it, I don't care anymore. And then we go, well, this works so well for some children, why not for this one? Because this one doesn't have the skills needed. Behavior charts work for children that already have the skills to behave well, they just need boundaries. But they don't teach skills. They don't teach them how to regulate. They don't teach them how to use impulse control. They don't give them practice using flexible thinking or planning and prioritizing or self-monitoring. They just highlight their inability to do it. And the expectation is that if you point out to a kid that they're failing, that they're going to somehow magically figure out what they should be doing instead. That's like me standing up here and being like, don't use timeouts, but then not telling you what the alternative is or giving you any guidance on how to use natural and logical consequences. You don't have the skill to do anything else, so you're going to keep doing what you know, even if it's not actually meeting your goal. So behavior charts are never going to solve the problem. My third issue is that they support public shaming and group division. What gets you moved up or down the chart and what earns you a token or a sticker is completely decided without your input and arbitrarily. Teachers often make it up on the fly. So you're never in a good position to make a good decision because the boundaries are being communicated to you in a threatening way after you've already crossed a boundary that you didn't know existed. And the expectation is that you always be aware of what boundaries have been set for others at all times. So you have to stay hyper aware of your surroundings, which is exhausting, which is leaving less energy available to use your skills, which increases misbehavior. Or parents threaten kids with losing a sticker out of nowhere. And again, that is the first time that boundary has been communicated to them. Behavior charts don't support critical thought on either the child or the adult's end, because rather than looking at what's going on, thinking about and asking the child what's happening, and then solving the actual problem or supporting the child in acquiring the skills they need, charts are all about making shit up on the fly and hoping because you're publicly admonishing a child for that shortcoming, everyone is going to remember what's not allowed going forward. And yeah, I get it. You've got 30 kids in your room and spending tons of time figuring out everyone's problems is hard. But if we A, support parents in teaching children the skills at home, and B, teach the skills young so that by the time they get to grade school, they've got that solid foundation to build on, and C, work as a class on figuring out the problems and displaying empathy and group drilling and group problem solving, then it's actually easier and takes way less time than policing children for every misstep that they take. If there's a problem, you come together as a class and you figure it out. And you may be shocked at the self-sustaining solutions that children come up with. That is how we build a self-monitoring society. But behavior charts just label kids without the skills as the bad kids and give the good kids an inflated sense of superiority. And often that means the ones who have good executive skills will figure out a way to make the children without them their scapegoats and misbehave anyways. It creates this division between the good kids and the bad kids. And believe me, ask your child, every kid in the class knows who the bad kids are. Finally, they put parents and teachers in the position of warden. Again, just like timeouts, children learn to only behave if they're in danger of getting caught. If you're not around, then there's nobody to move the clothespin or revoke the sticker or deny a token or whatever asinine system you're using. It also means the rules change based on who is or isn't around. Or if they can just do it under the radar, no harm, no foul. Nobody noticed, so it's not wrong. It makes kids sneaky. That's not the skill that we want them to have. It makes it very easy to have a thought process that goes, if I do this, I'll lose a star. And I'm always losing stars, so that's no big deal, so I'll do it anyways. Versus, if I do this, I'll hurt so-and-so. And that will make them feel sad, and I don't want them to feel sad, so I won't do it. Critical thought. Using your executive skills, building better skills, that's what discipline should do, not just condition them to check around the corner to see if you're watching first. All of this to say that if we want our kids to truly behave better, if we want to be able to back off, to trust them to do the right thing, to be responsible for their own actions, we actually need to teach them how. That needs to be the focus of our efforts, not just walking around pointing out when they're failing to meet our expectations. These charts don't fix the problem, and eventually your kids grow up a little bit, have a few cognitive leaps, and realize that the fucking chart doesn't hold any power over them, and they rebel hard because they still don't have the skills they need to behave. Our focus needs to be on collaborating with our children to solve the problem, not on controlling them, not manipulating them into doing what we prescribe them to do. Now, I know many parents and teachers use these charts because they genuinely don't have any idea what skills a child is lacking or how to teach them. It's not like math where there's that clear progression of skills. But the first step is to help your child begin to think clearly and get out of the punishments and rewards habit yourself. And to help you do that, I've got my free scripts for managing crazy making behavior pack that you can download at the link in the description. It's like your toe dip into how to address concerns, set boundaries, and collaborate with your child on solutions. And when you download that, you may want to grab the Timeouts Aren't Working Now What bundle that dives deeper into how to use natural and logical consequences and gives you all kinds of great resources to eliminate punishments for good and start teaching your kids how to think critically, how to have that really critical thought process about their behavior so that you have to discipline them less. So how's everyone feeling about this? Does it make sense? When it comes down to it, they're no different than timeouts. The exact same arguments can be made, only there's a real public shaming / psychological layer to charts to it too, especially when they're used in schools and daycares. We have the power to be the change for our children and for our children's children. These methods are holdovers from the 90s, and there's been more child development research done since Y2K than was done in the 50 years prior. It's time to stop living in the past. It's 2021, people. And of course, if you want to continue this conversation with me, I encourage you to come and join us in the Parenting Posse. We would love to talk about it and maybe give you some more resources. All right, that's it for me today. Have a wonderful afternoon, and I will see you next week for another Uncommon Sense Parenting class. Bye.